Absolutely. Here's section 1. Before the Sky Split, with a minimum of 700 words, kicking off the HFY story the day the humans came. Hashtag section 1. Before the Sky Split. For millennia, the galaxy had been quiet. Not silent, of course. Stars hummed their ancient songs, and civilizations exchanged knowledge across light years, but the kind of quiet that comes from equilibrium. The Galactic Coalition, a majestic assembly of over 60 intelligent species, had long since eliminated war, famine, and the raw chaos of uncontrolled exploration. Every member civilization held a seat, every voice was heard, and decisions were made through near-unanimous consensus. Peace reigned. But peace, in time, had dulled the edge of wonder. Commander Threxel of the Vayari Empire had served in the Coalition Diplomatic Corps for over 3 centuries. With his species' elongated lifespan and memory-enhancing glandular system, he was revered as a living archive of first-contact procedures and cross-cultural protocols. His colleagues called him the Archivist in Armor, though his own people had long abandoned martial symbolism. To Threxel, the title was ironic. He had never worn armor, never drawn a weapon, never needed to. Yet, on the day the humans came, even Threxel felt his skin hinges tighten with unease. It began, fittingly, with an error. An automated listening post on the edge of the Coalition's outer ring detected an anomalous FTL signature, a crude but functional hyperspace wake originating from a backwater system called Sol. For decades, the system had been monitored out of academic curiosity. The third planet, Earth, had displayed early-stage radio emissions and primitive nuclear capability. Analysts predicted it would take another 3 to 4 centuries before Earth achieved basic interstellar propulsion. The humans, it seemed, had other ideas. Threxel had been in session when the news came in, a routine motion to standardize biohaptic interfaces across translation protocols. Then the alert chimed. Unauthorized warp space incursion detected. Origin, Sol system. Murmurs spread like spores on the breeze. Sol? Earth? That violent, volatile species with a history of internal wars, environmental damage, and irrational superstition? No one expected them to jump ahead of schedule. They weren't even considered for pre-contact protocols yet. At first, the Council believed it was a fluke, perhaps an automated probe or a stolen alien relic. But within 2 solar cycles, there were 3 confirmed FTL vessels of human origin, each moving independently, each pinging known space in deliberate patterns. One even broadcasted a musical loop in dozens of frequencies. Beethoven.
Queen.
Something called death metal. The room went silent. The Coalition did not fear war. No, they had long mastered defense technology. But they feared disruption. Unpredictable species, especially those who burned through resources and leaderships like kindling, had a way of unraveling the delicate galactic weave. "What does your analysis suggest?" asked a Igrithi scholar, one of Threxel's longtime associates. He had stared at the transmission for hours. At the human vessels, hastily built, asymmetrical, yet functional, breaking every known design aesthetic. They looked like industrial accidents with attitude. They shouldn't have worked. And yet they did. Threxel gave his answer, without looking away. They're not following any known developmental arc. Their technology is hybridized, some principles stolen, others invented. It's illogical, but somehow effective. They've skipped 100 years of theoretical refinement through trial and error. A counselor snorted. Impossible. No civilization can progress that rapidly without external intervention. Another muttered, perhaps they found derelict tech. Something ancient. Threxel considered it. Perhaps. But if they did, they reverse-engineered it and adapted it in ways we haven't seen before. That speaks to something more dangerous than power. It speaks to imagination. The Council's final vote was to observe, but not engage. Earth was officially moved to Tier 2 observation. No contact. No interference. But the humans didn't wait for permission. Within months, a vessel appeared near a mining colony on the edge of Threxel's assigned sector. No weapons raised. No demands made. Just a message. Asterisk hello. We're from Earth. Are we late? Asterisk. The message was laced with humor. Asterisk humor asterisk of all things, and cultural idioms no translator could perfectly parse. They didn't request entry into the coalition. They simply arrived. That night, Drexel reviewed every file on humanity. Wars. Literature. Music. Chaos. Progress. Poetry. His forearms moved in unison, scanning, annotating, absorbing. The deeper he dug, the less he understood, and the more he needed to understand. They were a contradiction. A species that had nearly annihilated itself multiple times, but still sang songs to the stars. Creatures of instinct and reason, of cruelty and kindness, of destruction and hope. He closed the last file and whispered aloud, "They should not have made it." But they did. And now they were here. The coalition needed someone to assess the humans face to face. Most diplomats declined. Too volatile. Too unknown. Too human. Drexel stood alone when the vote was cast. "I will go," he said. 1,000 eyes turned to him. "You understand the risk?" asked the Council Prime. "I do," he replied. But in truth he didn't. Not yet. He would learn. He would witness. He would remember the day the sky split open, and something wild came through. Let me know when you're ready for Section 2. Absolutely. Here's Section 2. They call themselves human with a minimum of 700 words, continuing the day the humans came. Hashtag Section 2. They call themselves human. The human ship did not glide. It rumbled into coalition space, an unholy mixture of propulsion tech barely holding itself together. Metal panels bore scars of heat and welding, exterior plating mismatched like a patchwork quilt assembled during an earthquake. It was an affront to the graceful engineering of the Vayari, an aesthetic abomination by coalition standards. And yet it moved. Commander Drexel hovered just inside the diplomatic chamber of his own cruiser, watching through reinforced glass as the human vessel, Dauntless drifted into docking alignment. The name, translated into Vayari, meant something like fearless without justification. Fitting, he thought. His mandibles clicked in quiet anticipation. The humans had responded to the coalition's invitation in less than a cycle. Not with a fleet, not with an emissary carefully groomed for galactic diplomacy, but with a science vessel, one filled with mechanics, linguists, and what appeared to be a chef. That detail had not been lost on Drexel. The airlock opened with a hiss. The humans emerged, not in flowing robes or ceremonial armor like most galactic species, but in utilitarian uniforms. They carried tools, datapads, and 2 carried steaming mugs. The one in front stepped forward with a wide, bared-teeth smile. "Commander Drexel, I presume?" she said, extending a hand. Drexel stared at it for a long moment, then remembered the custom. He extended a limb. Tentative, slow. Her grip was warm. Too warm. "I am Reina Salazar," she said. "Captain of the Dauntless. On behalf of Earth and the Terran Accord, I bring greetings. And coffee." She turned and motioned, and the shortest human, barely 5 feet tall, stepped forward, holding a silver thermos with reverence. It's Ethiopian. Strong, but smooth. Drexel had read about this ritual, offering a stimulant beverage as a sign of peace. Still, he blinked slowly. "You are offering a neuroactive compound to a diplomatic contact." Reina grinned wider. "Only if you're brave enough." That was the first time Drexel felt off-balanced. The humans were strange from the beginning. Unlike most species, who sent singular representatives conditioned in diplomacy, humanity had sent a team. A linguist named Imani, who spoke 7 human languages and was already learning 2 alien ones. A botanist who kept slipping alien plant clippings into her satchel. A military liaison who seemed far too interested in the ship's emergency evacuation schematics. And Reina, who led them not with rigid authority, but with the ease of someone her crew chose to follow. They asked questions. Constantly. Why do Vayari ships hum at 72.6 Hz? Why does your council chamber face the spinward direction? What does it feel like when you molt? Threxel had never answered so many questions in one solar day. And yet the humans listened, truly listened, with wonder, not superiority. They also shared, unprompted and freely. They told stories of Earth, cities built into clouds, vast coral reefs pulsing with light, a culture that changed every 100 kilometers, yet somehow remained tied together by songs and struggle. And they laughed. Oh stars, they laughed. At everything. At nothing. Even at themselves. It was disarming. I read somewhere, Imani said, that the Vayari have an oral history tradition so detailed, you can recite your entire evolutionary lineage? Threxel nodded. Correct. And yet, Reyna added, sipping her coffee, you have no comedy? It is not valued, Threxel replied. Reyna leaned back in her chair. That might be a problem. That line was entered into the coalition's diplomatic archives, filed under asterisk, unexpected cultural commentary. Asterisk. As the visit progressed, Threxel began to notice patterns that disturbed and intrigued him. Human technology lacked cohesion but overflowed with improvisation. Their FTL engines used a mix of gravitational distortion and spatial compression that shouldn't have worked, but did. Their life support systems were modular, adjustable for alien species without needing an entirely new redesign. Nothing was elegant. Everything was effective. They were the only species he'd ever encountered that designed for failure. Every system had redundancies, escape hatches, fail-safes. They didn't assume perfection. They expected disaster and planned accordingly. Preparedness isn't paranoia, Reyna explained. It's optimism with a backup plan. The humans' behavioral patterns broke every sociological model. They were emotionally open, touch-oriented, and deeply informal. They cried during music performances, debated politics at mealtime, and frequently gave each other items of personal significance. Gifts, they called them, without any transactional expectation. One day, Reyna placed a small object in front of Threxel. A carved piece of wood, no bigger than his hand, depicting a bird mid-flight. It's a sparrow, she said. Not very strong. Not very fast. But it keeps going, no matter the storm. Threxel stared at it, overwhelmed by the sheer irrelevance and meaning of it all. I don't understand, he admitted. Reyna's voice was gentle. You will. When the diplomatic meetings concluded, the coalition issued a statement calling for further observation. They still didn't know what to make of Earth. A species too young, too impulsive, too dangerous. But Threxel couldn't stop thinking about them. They move too fast, he recorded in his personal log. They speak before thinking, act before consensus, and dream without limit. I fear they may be the most dangerous civilization we have ever encountered. He paused. But I also fear what the galaxy will become if we ignore what they bring. And somewhere aboard the Dauntless, Reyna laughed over a joke only humans could find funny and planned their next destination, deeper into coalition space, toward the unknown, toward the moment history would fracture. Let me know when you're ready for Section 3. The Spark in the Void. Absolutely. Here's Section 3. The Spark in the Void, with a minimum of 700 words, continuing the day the humans came. Hashtag Section 3. The Spark in the Void. The distress call came from a system nobody cared about. Corellia, 4, a small border colony belonging to the insectoid Corellian species, hovered near the gravitational edge of a collapsed binary star. Dangerous territory, rarely traveled. It was an outpost used mostly for low-yield plasma mining, housing a few thousand workers and families. Threxel was aboard the Dauntless when the call came through. His diplomatic mission extended at Captain Reyna Salazar's insistence. She had argued, half joking, half sincere, that Threxel was already halfway to becoming an honorary human. He had agreed to observe a few more cycles. For academic reasons, he told himself. But the moment the alert came through, that fragile neutrality was shattered. A rapidly expanding energy wave, the byproduct of gravitational shear, was tearing through the system. Radiation flares were already disabling comms buoys. The Corellians' only functioning shield generator was days from full charge. The colony had less than 30 hours before annihilation. The coalition convened an emergency session, and Threxel attended remotely, his 4 eyes flicking between the live feed from Corellia 4 and the somber expressions of the council. "The risk is too great," declared a Xylari elder. "The anomaly is unstable. We cannot risk lives for a minor outpost." Others nodded. The Corellians were not a powerful race. Their loss, while unfortunate, would not tip galactic balance. The official decision: observe and record. No rescue would be mounted. Reyna stood behind Threxel, arms crossed, jaw tight. "You're really just going to let them die?" Threxel didn't answer. He didn't have one. The humans convened in their command deck without waiting for orders. The Dauntless had no specialized rescue gear, no gravity stabilizers, and no official mandate. It had a crew of 45 and an aging hull. Reyna stood before them. "We don't have to win," she said. "We just have to try." No one hesitated. Threxel tried to stop her. "The council said to stand down," she finished. "So, let them watch." Within an hour, the Dauntless was en route to Corellia 4, its engines flaring like a wounded comet. Threxel, torn between duty and something he couldn't name, stayed aboard. Not to advise, not to observe, just to be there. The journey took 6 hours. They emerged into chaos. The colony's orbit had begun to decay. Chunks of mining equipment drifted freely, drawn toward a flickering gravity well. Communication was reduced to bursts of static. The energy storm on the edge of the system pulsed like a heartbeat, growing stronger with every minute. "We're going to slingshot around the third moon," Reyna ordered. "It'll give us enough speed to insert into low orbit without overburning the reactors." "That's suicide," Threxel murmured. "No," Reyna said. "It's math. Very aggressive math." The plan was mad. Brilliant, but mad. The humans intended to use gravity-assisted momentum to deliver portable shield generators and evacuation drones to the planet's surface, allowing for mass liftoff. To do so, they needed to time dozens of micromaneuvers within seconds of each other. Any error, and they'd become part of the next data cloud. Reyna and her crew worked like fire given shape. They screamed across decks, patched systems mid-flight, and operated without centralized command. Orders were given, challenged, modified, and improved in real time. Chaos, perfectly choreographed. Threxel found himself swept into it. At one point, he was helping reroute plasma coils, guided by a 19-year-old engineer with grease on her forehead who just kept saying, "Trust me, Archivist." And he did, because she smiled while death waited outside the hull. The most critical moment came when one of the stabilizers failed to launch. The colony's largest escape vessel wouldn't have enough thrust to break orbit without it. There was no time to troubleshoot. Then, Lieutenant Isaac Harper strapped himself into a suit, slung the stabilizer to his back, and nodded. "I've done worse with less," he said, grinning. Threxel tried to protest. "The gravitational field is rising exponentially." "I know." Harper launched. Threxel watched through a viewport as the human's body arced toward the planet, riding the edge of a collapsing gravitational wave. The stabilizer deployed seconds before impact. Harper didn't make it. No one said anything for a long moment. Then the evacuation vessels lifted from Corellia 4, carrying over 4,000 Corellians to safety. The Dauntless limped away, battered and triumphant. Back in Coalition space, Threxel stood before the council and gave his report. The room was quiet as he spoke, of the plan, the risk, the loss, and the lives saved. "You defied direct orders," someone said. "I was aboard as an observer," he replied. "And I observed humanity." A pause. "They're reckless," another counselor added. "They do not respect our systems." "No," Threxel said softly. "But they act when systems fail." He did not mention Harper's last words, broadcast through static as he flew toward certain death. "Tell them we came to help. That we came to try." In that moment, Threxel understood. Humans weren't just a new species in the stars. They were a spark, erratic, brilliant, and uncontrollable. A species that would rather break than bend, but only if it meant pulling someone else to safety. And sparks, he realized, had a way of starting fires. Let me know when you're ready for Section 4. The Day the Humans Came. The final chapter. Absolutely. Here's Section 4. The Day the Humans Came, with a minimum of 700 words, closing out the day the humans came. Hashtag Section 4. The Day the Humans Came. It did not begin with the declaration. There was no triumphant entry parade, no demand to be recognized, no ships casting shadows over planetary capitals. The day the humans came to the heart of the Galactic Coalition began with an emergency signal. Not from humans. From the Coalition itself. A rogue AI fleet, remnants of an ancient war long thought over, had reawakened in a forbidden sector near the galactic core. The fleet, once created by a forgotten civilization for self-defense, had become corrupted over the centuries, twisting its original programming into a single directive: eliminate sentient imperfection. The Council had long avoided that region, deeming it too unstable to recover or investigate. But the AI fleet had moved, breaching containment protocols and vaporizing a border colony in 17.3 seconds. Coalition fleet scrambled, but the enemy adapted too quickly. Traditional tactics were anticipated. Formation strategies were countered in microseconds. Over a dozen vessels were destroyed in the first encounter. It was Threxel who said it first. We need the humans. He expected resistance, objections, fear. Instead, silence. Then, reluctant agreement. The Council transmitted the call to Earth, a world still unaffiliated, still unofficial, but now impossible to ignore. What happened next became legend. Within 12 hours, Earth responded. Not with hesitation, but with fire and iron. They called it Project Emberfall, a joint initiative from Earth's fractured but resourceful nations. They didn't send a fleet in formation or wait for diplomatic protocols to clear. They launched a swarm, fast-assembled assault crafts, retrofitted mining ships, autonomous drones with rudimentary AI partners built to counter AI threats using unpredictability and emotional heuristics. Humans didn't try to outthink the AI. They confused it. Every battle tactic was random. Units acted independently. Some pilots faked power failures to lure enemy drones close, then detonated with antimatter spikes. Others transmitted pop songs and philosophical riddles into enemy systems mid-fight, overloading their cognition processors. And some, too many died. But for every human lost, a dozen AI units were disabled, jammed, or sabotaged. Where the Coalition fought with strategy, humanity fought with instinct, adaptation, and rage. They were fire in the dark. Threxel watched it all unfold aboard a Coalition command ship orbiting a moon near the front line. Human ships maneuvered in spirals and feints, using chaos as cover. One crashed directly into a drone hive, sacrificing itself to clear a path for civilian evac. From a Coalition standpoint, it was unthinkable. From a human perspective, it was Tuesday. He listened to human pilots shout encouragement over open comms. Don't die stupid, die useful. I got 2 more before I'm toast. Anyone need a miracle? Punching through. Sing something? Damn it, I don't want to die quiet. And then there was Reina Salazar, still commanding the Dauntless, upgraded and barely holding together after the Corellian rescue. Her voice rang out clearly over the Council comm line as her ship dove into the enemy swarm. You wanted to know who we are? This is who we are. We see fire, and we run toward it. Not because we're fearless, but because someone has to. They breached the AI's central core, housed within a hollowed planetoid once used as an archive vault. Coalition forces had never reached it. Human ground units landed, fought through hulls filled with laser traps and mechanized horrors, and planted a core virus written not by military engineers, but a college student who'd once hacked a lunar bank for fun. The virus worked. Not flawlessly, not cleanly, but well enough to fracture the enemy command net. The Coalition followed through, sweeping up the rest. When the last hostile signal blinked out, the galaxy took a breath it hadn't known it was holding. The battle was over. But that wasn't the day that mattered. The day that mattered was the day after. When the humans were invited to the Coalition Council, not as observers, not as curiosities, but as equals, they arrived, not in golden transports or pristine diplomatic cruisers, but in patched-up ships. Some wore armor. Others wore leather jackets, stained uniforms, or nothing formal at all. A few brought instruments. One carried a flag patched with a dozen Earth nation symbols. Another brought cookies. Threxel stood with them as they entered the chamber. He wore no insignia, just a small wooden carving of a sparrow around his neck. A gift. When the Council Prime asked humanity's representative to speak, Reyna stepped forward, flanked by survivors and scientists, poets and soldiers. She didn't offer grand rhetoric. She just said, "We're here. Not because we're perfect, not because we're ready, but because we care. And if that's not enough, we'll make it enough." A long silence followed. Then applause. From insectoid limbs and feathered arms, from mandibles and metallic appendages. Because in the end, it wasn't Earth's weapons that earned them a seat. It was their courage to come anyway, messy, loud, brave. The day the humans came wasn't the beginning of conquest. It was the beginning of something new. And that's the end of The Day the Humans Came. Let me know if you want an epilogue, character profiles, or to turn it into a novella. Happy to build it out more.